there's some visibility through it. So that is actual ironwork that will be galvanized black, which will allow it to stand in its own right. And then with the side piece is a decorative piece that will be affixed to the side of the signage, to the 8-inch side panel. And it too will be an iron element that will be affixed. Largely decorative in nature, but reflective of the street furniture and the wrought iron.
So the power is going to come through that space from the
power will be drawn up through the side, yeah.
Okay, so that'll be concealed through that.
It'll be sealed through that. Yeah.
And then is that sign right at the corner of the two property lines?
Where it is located, and again, if you look at sheet number, I guess the master plan, where we're putting it is we're putting it at the most westerly extreme of the property line of the Pocket Park, adjacent to the Park Avenue right away. Does that answer your question?
So it's essentially as tight to the property lines as
far west as we can put it, so that it's not intrusive into the Pocket Park.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Commissioner Sweezy.
I'll just disclose that, just for those who don't know, I'm also a Hennepin County employee. I don't work for HCMC, though, but just so that's clear. I'm wondering if there's any reason that there couldn't, all four of those signs couldn't have the nice ornamental work on them. I understand why the one is important because of the park that's adjacent, but could all four of them be similarly?
I'm getting the nod from my client. So that would be something that we would be open to including in. We felt it was important to include the wrought iron in the Pocket Park, given the historic nature and given the street furniture there, that if you look at the other three signs, they're located in different contexts and they stand on their own, whether they be in a landscaped area or setting off an outdoor patio area, or even in the case of Chicago and 9th, as a continuation of a landscape strip. But if it's the desire of the commission to have us modify our monuments to include the wrought iron elements, we would be prepared to do that. We don't think it's necessary, but we'd be prepared to do that.
I just think sort of historically from that area and that space, and for all of HCMC, the better the decoration, the better. That's just my feeling on the space. Thanks.
Commissioner Slack.
Well, I'm glad that you actually brought up sign 6, because as I was going through and looking at the individual renderings, I had some concerns over how many signs are essentially on that facade, and the drawings that you have in the packet are a little misleading, because if you look at drawing 6B, it shows the ground level sign, but it doesn't show your wall sign on level 5, and it doesn't show your parking sign essentially on the second level 14 feet up. And then when you go to drawing 7, it shows the large sign on level 5, but it doesn't show the ground level sign and the parking sign. And then you go to drawing 8 and it shows the parking sign. And so that drawing 6B in essence is a little misleading, because actually there would be 3 signs that you would probably see from either that perspective or even a little bit skewed, maybe more so to the north. And so to me, that's seeing the same information 3 times. I don't know, any thoughts regarding why the drawings aren't showing those additional signs?
Well, I think in terms of 6A, 6B, and 6C, we primarily were focusing on the individual signs. And I recognize that it doesn't give you the full picture. However, when we look at 6A, 6B, and 6C, it was largely focusing on that variance request for the monument. The parking signage to provide the identification and the wayfaring into the parking, as well as the signage on the building face, are either permitted as of right or permitted by way of conditional use permit, and therefore stand on their own. We wanted to really focus in on 6A, 6B, and 6C to show the relationship of the monument sign to the streets from various perspectives. So I apologize that didn't give a complete picture. It was not our intention to mislead, but rather to focus in on the monument sign alone.
Right. Are there any, Commissioner Rockwell?
Quick question on view 6C. So, which this, so this is the sign sort of in contention in the Elliott Park neighborhood letters. So, my question is to the relevance of the information on the 6C perspective, given the one-ways, because no one can drive down 9th Street to see the information on that sign, right? Because 9th Street is one way in the opposite direction. And
Can I just answer?
Yeah.
The sign's a two-sided sign.
no, I know. And
So
so
you-
what I'm asking is, so on this, here, on your rendering here, so 6A, let's jump to 6A. So from perspective 6A, that information on that side of the sign is all visible from somebody driving down 9th Street, right, in a car.
Correct.
But 6C is the opposite side of the sign, the other side. And my question is, who's using the information on that side of the sign? It is not facing Park. I mean, it's not facing the drivers on Park, right? Because it's parallel, not perpendicular. And there aren't any drivers on 9th Street that would see it from that perspective because it's one way. And so, what is the relevance of the information on that side of the sign?
I think that there's three pieces of information that's being given. Number one is it's providing the consistency with the branding or the identification of the clinic. The new clinic, or whatever we're going to call it, is providing branding not only, or identification not only for those driving, but those walking as well. In terms of the other two pieces, directing individuals to the parking and to the emergency, I think in the parking on that side of 6C, it may serve some benefit to those individuals traveling on Park heading north. Even though it's on the passenger side, it still provides an identification. And with the emergency, I would use the same position or same argument, but it also provides wayfaring for the pedestrians that are looking for the location of the emergency. So that's the reason why we've made them two-sided in all instances, to provide the ability to deal with individuals driving various ways on various roads, as well as those in the pedestrian realm as well.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Commissioner Magrino.
I have a question, maybe for the applicant or for staff or whoever knows. I can't seem to pull it up on Google Street View right now, but I think there's that sort of half block parking ramp between Portland and Park. Aren't there wall signs on the back of that were added kind of recently? And if so, did those require a variance? It's also Hennepin County, it's part of that sort of complex.
I don't know if they'll show up on the zoning map, but yes. Taller wall signs were approved. Oh, I want to say it was
I think it's
a
just
block
set a
over.
frame. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not sure how. Let's see. Maybe it would be. Yeah, I think it's over here somewhere. I'm not sure how visible they would be from Park. Is that the question?
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering sort of about precedent and labeling the buildings, more so for the ones that are kind of up on the building rather than the ones that are down on the ground. Because, I mean, that's a big blank wall, so it's a little bit different. But, if we approved something like that a couple years ago, it might be relevant to what we're thinking about right now. So I was just wondering if we knew that.
And Janelle, I have a question. If they were to just have one freestanding sign, are there any requirements with respect to where that sign is located? Does it need to, could it be at any of these locations, or would it need to be on the same frontage as the front door of the building?
It could be at any one of those corners.
Okay. All right. Are there any further questions of either staff or the applicant? Right now, the public hearing is still open. If there are none, we can move on to some other speakers. I know a few of you would like to speak on this item. You can decide who goes first and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, thank you. I'm Lynn Regnier. I'm Executive Director of the Elliott Park Neighborhood Organization, and we've been working with the folks at HCMC first on their clinic and then more recently on their sign plan. When they brought their sign plan to the community, the initial reaction was that's an awful lot of signs. But as we talked some more, we realized that it wasn't the number of signs, it was specifically the monument signs. And as we talked even more, we realized it was specifically the monument sign at the corner of 9th and Park, which is in our South 9th Street Historic District. And there's a lovely little pocket park there that HCMC is developing that will be open for the public to use. The other three monument signs seem to be grounded by the building. They are closer to the building or to the patio that's on the Chicago and 8th Street corner. But the sign that's at the Historic District also seems to float on its own. So its size seems to be magnified. We worked with the folks at HCMC, and we specifically were trying to get that sign smaller. As stated in the letter, we agreed to disagree, and we could not come to, we were at an impasse at that point. One of the things I'd like to do, where did he go? Oh, he's over there. This is Kim Voss. He's a consultant with our organization. He's going to pretend he's Vanna White right now and just kind of point to the door. 4 by 8 feet is larger than one of those doors. Kim is 6'1", and the door will be taller. Yeah. Where the tip of my finger is, that's actually 8 feet. And then the width of the door, one door is 3 feet. So it'll be another foot wider. So we just wanted to point that out in terms of scale with people that will be there and standing there with this kind of, it seems very intrusive in the park, and it seems oversized. For the location, it's also going to be a lit sign, a backlit sign, I believe, which has some consternation for some people there. It will be the only lit sign in our residential historic district as well. So we understand the need for wayfaring. Any of us who have driven around at any time and can't find your way, especially for a hospital and a clinic. This is a large campus. There are a lot of buildings. But we would really like to see if we couldn't get that sign downsized, if we can't get rid of it altogether, because it is quite large. Oh, he's not there anymore. He's over there. No, that's okay. I was just going to wave to him. So there, that is that piece of it, and what we're thinking. We have had a very cordial and respectful relationship with our friends at HCMC, so we are not here in an antagonistic manner at all, but we're just speaking to the historic district and to that particular corner. Do you have any questions for me?
Commissioner Kronzer.
Thank you. In your conversations with the applicant, was there any discussion about integrating that sign into the plaza more so, making, as an example, the base extend out to be part of a bench, or putting the sign actually on the curb of the planting areas, or bringing in more brick to the base of the sign? Something that actually does ground it, to your point of it floating out there?
Yeah, we did. Specifically, the community was concerned about this being too much of an intrusion into this small park as well. So I think they, having it on the edge of the park seemed to be more agreeable to the community, but we didn't speak about other things that could be done. We did talk at one point about, you see this particularly in a lot of old cemeteries where they have the iron framework, and at the top it says cemetery, and we were suggesting that maybe, we didn't want it to say cemetery, of course, but taking this monument design, making it smaller and making it appear to be a hanging sign of some sort, which would allow for the height that HCMC wanted, so cars driving around could see above cars perhaps, but incorporating it that way to look a little bit more historic or something. But as I said, we came up to an impasse and decided it was time to move forward and bring it to the city as it was.
Okay, Commissioner Rockwell.
So just for clarification, so the issue that the neighborhood has is both or either or, the size and the design. So, I mean, if it were shrunk in the same design, it sounds like that might be better. But if it were the same size and a different design, that would also be better?
Well, it's a solid mass, except for, that space, that 1 foot at the bottom with the open ironwork. So I'm not sure how you could change that piece of it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could answer that specifically for the community. I have a few community people here if they wanted to nod or give me some direction. Yeah.
For me, it's the placement.
Placement and size. So.
Any other questions of the speaker? If there are none, we can move on to other speakers. And please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lazzaretti, and I live at 625 South 9th Street. I actually happen to have been born in Elliott Park and have lived there for the last 25 years. And as Lynn said, I think the neighborhood is very grateful that we have the HCMC has decided to put a park on the corner there. And the main problem we have is with the sign. And also for me, the fact that it is a backlit, multicolored sign that is in the center of our, several very historic row houses. And it's a residential area that the sign seems to have a kind of a commercial encroachment into the view down 9th Street that we have. Also, I think, has been pointed out, that at that intersection, there are 3 signs that are visible. And this freestanding sign is the smallest of the 3. And so that it seems that the naming and the wayfaring issues could be addressed by those 2 larger signs. So.
Right. Are there any questions of the speaker? If there are none, we can move on to anyone else. Yes, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Oh, good evening. My name is Howard Young. I live on the intersection of 9th and Portland, the opposite end of the block of Mr. Valle. And I'm very much concerned, as all, regarding the sign and the actual design of it. I think one of the issues that Mike was concerned about is the lighting. The restoration work that he has done on that intersection is the best I've seen in 40-some odd years of practicing architecture. The detailing is beyond what anyone, I would say, better than the way the building was built originally. And to have this light shining in this big box looking out through these beautiful historic windows is a little bit not as nice as one would like to see. And I would like the city to have the opportunity to sit down and see if lighting is obviously an issue for people living within a structure of that nature and the other historic buildings. One of the questions I have is has to do with art. Now, a big sign that's got the big letters and tells you this is HCMC, that's a sign. And my question is there any reason that a sign cannot also be more that of a piece of artwork, which oftentimes draws more attention than a big square rectangular box with a name on it? Would the possibility of HCMC getting a little bit more attention, a little bit more, oh, if there was something really exciting for them to look at and explain to you very artistically that around the corner is parking, and this is HCMC. I'm not a speaker, but I think you get the idea of what we're speaking about here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Anyone else? If there's no one, I'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, we have 4 applications before us. Are there any further questions, or would someone like to start off the discussion with a motion? Would anyone at least like to start us off? Commissioner Magrino.
So I will start us off here. And I want to speak to it if I get a second, who knows. I'd make a motion to deny the application for the CUP to increase the maximum height of the wall signs.
All right, so that's item A. Motion to deny. We have a second? And,
Okay.
Yeah, if you'd like to elaborate on that.
So yeah, looking at the CUP here, I mean, I guess we're going to get to it in a minute. I'm not really opposed to the freestanding signs around the property here. Thinking about sort of the overall Minneapolis skyline, one of the things about it that is nice is that there aren't a whole lot of signs that are cluttering it up, kind of like over in St. Paul. Lately, we've sort of made some exceptions to that for like the Wells Fargo project over a few blocks north of here. And, I guess I just, looking at finding 5 here for the CUP, one of the urban design policies is to minimize clutter. And so this is sort of it seems like a small thing, but I guess if someone then proposes something across the street and they want to put a sign on and they want to put it up 4 stories higher, and something next to that, they want to put up a sign 4 stories higher than that, and you sort of might end up with kind of a branded skyline, which isn't something that I would want to see.
All right. Is there any additional discussion on that? If there is none, clerk, please call the roll.
Freeland,
No.
Sweezy,
No.
Slack,
No.
Rockwell,
No.
Magrino,
Aye.
Lipke Pier,
No.
Kranzer,
Nope.
Gagnon.
No.
So that's 7-1.
All right, and that motion fails. Would someone like to make an alternate motion? Commissioner Slack.
Well, I'll start with item A, conditional use permit, and approve staff recommendation for the 2 conditions.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item A, the conditional use permit. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Gagnon,
Aye.
Kranzer,
Aye.
Lipke Pier,
Aye.
Magrino,
Nay.
Rockwell,
Aye.
Slack,
Aye.
Sweezy,
Aye.
Freeland,
Aye.
7-1.
And that motion carries. Commissioner Slack, would you like to continue?
Sure. I'll take the next 2 variances separate. So I'll do variance item B first for increase the maximum allowable size of a wall sign.
We have a motion and a second to approve item B, the variance for the maximum size of a wall sign. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Gagnon,
Aye.
Kranzer,
Aye.
Lipke Pier,
Aye.
Magrino,
Aye.
Rockwell,
Aye.
Slack,
Aye.
Sweezy,
Aye.
Freeland,
Aye.
8-0.
And item C, Commissioner Slack.
For item C, I'd like to. Sorry. For item C, I'd like to make a change in the text to state that approve the application for variance to increase maximum number of allowable freestanding signs from 1 to 3, subject to the following conditions. And I think we've had obviously some very good conversations around sign number identified as sign number 6, and I think that the neighborhood raises some really good points in their letter, but looking at the overall signage package, there are 5 building ID signs. They're pretty significant. They're at a height that is viewable from blocks, if not miles away. There are 4 identified ground level signs, which I do personally believe that sign number 6 is redundant. I think it's redundant to sign 4.2. I think it's redundant to sign 5 and redundant to sign 7, and in some cases redundant to sign 8. So I would prefer not to see sign 6 as part of this this application. So that's my reasoning for item C.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Oh, yeah, excuse me. We do need a second. We have a second. Is there any discussion?
I will support the amendments made by Commissioner Slack because I do think there are too many freestanding signs here. I do think sign 6 is needed from a wayfinding perspective. I mean, the vast majority of vehicles coming to this facility because of the one-ways and the drop-off are coming around this corner. So I do think that sign's needed. I would encourage the applicant to continue working on the historic quality of that sign. I think maybe shrinking it up 10% and putting some more iron on the sides would help downplay it a little bit, still provide the wayfinding, and incorporate into the historic district a little bit better than. I think it's a good step. I think you could go 2 or 3 more steps in that same vein. But reducing the signs by 1, I think, is a good thing on the site.
Commissioner Slack and then Commissioner Sweezy.
Yeah, you know, I think Commissioner Kronzer raises a good point. Spent some time literally driving around the site this weekend trying to visualize the building and the signage locations. And honestly, I 100% agree with wayfinding. I just feel like you're not going to miss this building, no matter where you're coming from. It's a very distinct from an architectural standpoint. It's unique. It's within this medical district. And I think with that, as you circulate around the one-ways, I feel like if you miss one turn, you're obviously going to be able to get back around to where you're actually going to go. And so wayfinding is key, especially for this type of use. But in this case, I feel like with the signage that's proposed and the architecture of the building, which I agree is really nice, and the fact that you're in this medical district, it should be pretty obvious that you are at this building and where you need to park and how you enter the building. So that's really my reasoning for eliminating sign number 6.
And Commissioner Slack, maybe you could clarify. In your motion, you stated allowing increasing the maximum number of signs from 1 to 3. Did you want to specify the locations of the signs that would be allowed? Just to
sure. That would be
formalize that.
The allowable signs within item number C would be ground level signs. Within item number C would be sign 1, 4, and 5.
Commissioner Sweezy.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'd just like to recommend, in accordance with my comments earlier, that the one corner that may or may not end up with the sign is going to be the one that has the beautification of the park. I'd like to strongly encourage the applicant to make those other 3 signs look like the nice one that you had proposed here. I think that the concrete corners could use a little bit more attention with the way that the signs look. I think a problem that HCMC has always had is that people don't know where to go in for what they're doing, and part of that is with the structures that exist now. I agree with Commissioner Slack that this one has a nice, obvious entrance, and some of that should be eliminated. But I would sure like to see that nice-looking sign in all other places, if that's possible.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right. If there's no further discussion, we have a motion and a second to approve variance C to increase the maximum number of allowed freestanding signs from 1 to 3, and there is one stated condition there. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vreeland?
Aye.
Sweezy?
Aye.
Slack?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Magrino,
Aye.
Lipke Pier,
Aye.
Cronzer.
Nay.
So that is 6-1.
All right, and that motion carries. We also have item D, the site plan review. Commissioner Slack, do you want to?
Make a motion to approve item D, site plan review, per staff recommendations.
And we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Cronzer,
Aye.
Lipke Pier,
Aye.
Magrino,
Aye.
Rockwell,
Aye.
Slack,
Aye.
Squeezy,
Aye.
Freeland.
Aye.
So it's 7-0.
And that motion carries. That concludes our discussion on item 7 and also concludes our business today. We have committee of the whole this Thursday, and our next meeting is May 9th.
A lot on the agenda.
That's it. The meeting is adjourned today.
Thursday.